Do you really want to compete with people like this? They willing to work all day and study all night. He said during lunch at work, he would be coding. During dinner, he would be coding. He added this would have been much more difficult to accomplish without help at home. His spouse, shout out to the ladies that's holding down the men. His spouse is the main reason he was able to juggle all this. She knew this was his dream, similar to Rita. Rita held me down and supported me through all of this. The next main reason is caffeine. Lots of caffeine. So he did what he did. He said it's easy to fall behind. And this is the other part. And this is what I tell a lot of other people. I gave y'all this whole game before. He didn't just say, okay, I graduated the boot camp. It's time for me to go through, so on and so forth, right? He built his portfolio. He learned about the people that he would be interviewing with. He learned about the companies. And then he built the apps to show that he can do what he said is he can do. He demonstrated his ability and didn't rely on anybody to give him anything. He felt like he still needed to prove himself. A therapist, ladies and gentlemen, is complaining, running in the Victim Olympics. A woman, I believe it's a white woman, but a woman nevertheless, is complaining and running in the Victim Olympics. And what I found, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Victim Olympics know no bounds. It knows no color. It knows no gender. All it knows is that you don't want to be responsible for whatever it is that you put yourself into, and that it's going to have you running at a pace that Usain Bolt cannot keep up with. The Victim Olympics is real, ladies and gentlemen. So a therapist with $81,000 in student debt who keeps getting denied relief. So for some of y'all, they promise y'all, they say, listen, come work for the government, come do some level of public service for the next decade of your life, and then we'll forgive your student loans. Okay? And you said, okay, I'm cool. I'm cool with making hardly nothing and not living my life for the next 10 years. But guess what? I'm going to get my loans forgiven. And then the federal government and Biden said, nah, come on over here and let me talk to you for a minute. Lindsay wants one thing: for the government to I always find it funny when people are asking for things from the government, but let's continue because I want to hurry up and get through this, and I want to talk about my favorite homegirl, Kamala. Lindsay Averbrook wants one thing: for the government to honor its promise to forgive student debt for people who work to serve the public good. She said, listen, I'm doing good things. I deserve for my debt to be forgiven. All right. At 38 years old, she spent her entire career in public service. Nobody asked her to, but okay. She graduated from the University of Massachusetts Lowell in 2006 with a degree, or with degrees. These degrees are so funny to me. In criminal justice and psychology. And later got a dual licensure as a mental health counselor and drug counselor at Cambridge College, which means that she spent the bag getting her education. Since then, she has worked for nonprofits as a mental health caseworker in prisons. She now runs her own practice as a therapist. Congratulations. So she's been working very hard. This is her right here. She drinks lots of coffee. She loves life. She loves skiing and walking, long walks on the beach. But she's running her own practice now as a therapist. While she loves her job, she hates the $81,000 in student debt burden that comes with it and does not understand why she doesn't qualify for loan forgiveness. Now, here's the key, y'all. Here's the key. She owes $81,000 today, meaning that she's been paying on it for an extended period of time, but the interest continues to keep it at where it is today. We don't know what she owed. We know what it's saying she owe now. And the amount of money that this chick is going to wind up paying if she does not get her loan forgiven is going to be impactful. I don't care how many degrees you got. I don't care how many licenses you have. Biden said, I'm good on that. I'm straight. I think I've applied for every payment plan that I can and have been declined, she told Insider. All the emails I get are confusing. They are conflicting. As a nonprofit worker, she technically qualified for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Now, anybody that's seen me do this show know that I've broken down this whole loan and I've used countless examples of different people that have not been able to successfully navigate through this public loan service forgiveness program and have their loans forgiven, which is supposed to forgive student debt for public service servants after 10 years of qualifying payments. Now, qualifying payments for most of these people mean that they're doing it on an income-based payment system, meaning that they assess what it is that you need to pay based off of your income, and those are the qualifying payments that you make. You make them for 10 years, and then you work in a specific sector, and then ultimately they forgive your loans. That's what we're talking about today, okay? But the program ran up a 98% denial rate, pushing borrowers like Averbrook off the path to forgiveness. Listen, they got a better denial rate than the federal government when it comes to chasing down people that they trying to convict. The feds got a worse conviction rate than the PSLF program, and you telling me that this is going to be the thing that you hanging your hat on in order to make sure that your loans is forgiven? Yeah, okay. Education Department, though, recently announced reforms. Oh, okay, cool. Temporary waiver to allow past payments in the program to count towards forgiveness. Right. Averbrook is hoping. I don't pin my hopes and dreams on anything, right? She's hoping this overhaul will forgive her for the forgiveness she has sought for a decade. We work in public service. We're the people that have to deal with mental health crisis. And they're causing one for the people dealing with mental health crisis. Then she talks about her anxiety, being tossed around 15 times. Until recently, she said her salary never exceeded $50,000 annually. But you felt the need to take out probably close to 6 figures in student loans. She had to take on a second job like waitressing to afford basic expenses. Oh, welcome to the real world. Welcome to what men have to do every single day. There is no forgiveness, and you want it to be equal, and now you're having to live life like we have, and nobody cares. Her loans have almost always been on forbearance due to low pay in the public service industry. Well, wouldn't if it's on forbearance? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't know. If her loans is on forbearance, does that also qualify towards whatever it is that you're paying for the next 10 years? Is it that you worked in public service for 10 years, or is it that you have made payments, income-based payments for 10 years? Because if you've been making payments for 10 years, if I'm correct, that would mean that qualifies for the forgiveness, not if it's been in forbearance for the overwhelming majority of the time. See, now we start to get to the thick of things. Now we start to get to the real thick of things. We start to pay attention to the details. See, what people say and what the truth is two different things. It don't matter how you feel. The only thing that matters is the reality, right? Let's continue real quick. Even while she was making payments while on forbearance, debt load to continue to grow during interest, which means that this is a cash cow for the federal government, ladies and gentlemen. If you think that they're walking away from all of this money and all of these trillions of dollars that you're paying in order to service these loans, you are absolutely out of your mind. Check it out. Not only was she continually getting rejected from the PSLF, but she was also denied repayment through an income-driven repayment plan because her monthly income was inconsistent. She says she never received any helpful information from her loan company on how to pay off the debt. Well, why do you think that is? Because the loan company is making money off the service and the loan. Duh. let's see. She took advantage of the 0% interest rate, paid off about $3,000 of her debt over the past year, but the payment pause ends in 80 days. Hoping for a new waiver. Hoping. Takes several months. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so conversely, ladies and gentlemen, now let me give you the difference. Okay? Because I like to use real articles, real situations, and real circumstances in order to illustrate a point. So on the flip side, I was reading an article that was dropped on my desk this morning. Also, in which a young man went to a boot camp. Went to a boot camp and landed a job making $100,000 a year. And this is how he did it. See, I don't want to just bring you through and show you the victim Olympics. I also want to give you some solutions on how it is that you can go about doing things on the flip side. So let's get into this, and then we're going to go straight into Kamala Harris. I can't wait to get into her. But let's see. Alex Walls in 2019 was working as a manager for technical services at EdTech company Instructure, making $48,000 a year. So he was doing the same thing as the young lady on the flip side, as far as making around the same amount, making $48,500 a year. Very much average, ladies and gentlemen, in the United States as far as what the pay rate is for a lot of these people. But check it out. He said while he'd seen a steady pay increase and leadership opportunities over 3.5 years he worked there, he knew it wasn't going to be his dream role. Always a voice in the back of his head. Cool. Then Waltz came across University of Utah's coding boot camp. I know some really good friends. I know a friend that actually runs a coding boot camp, and they've placed a lot of people in jobs. All right. He decided to give it a go. Similar programs and partnership, blah, 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 are offered at UC Davis, University of Richmond, and allow students to learn on their own time without having to be enrolled in the school. So basically, there's courses for you to take on your own time that you have to complete in order to enable you to be able to have the skills to do these things. All right. I tend to think of it personally as a skilled trade, a very lucrative skilled trade, but I tend to think of it as a skilled trade. I still think back to the time when I first saw the Facebook advertisement, and he thanks his lucky stars for it. He's 31 years old, a lead software engineer at a startup, and he received an offer of $100,000 a year. He shared how he leveraged his coding bootcamp to make significant career and income leap. All right. He says he looked at quite a few boot camps before making a selection. Oh, wait, you telling me this guy actually did research? Interesting. Deciding factor, while many similar programs are set at 12 weeks, this one offered an extended timeline of 24 weeks. So what he's telling you is that he didn't just take the path to least resistance. He took the path to get him what he needed in order to be able to land the job that he wanted. He was intentional. Thought of trying all these things in 12 weeks, just didn't sit well with him. Felt like it was a recipe for failure. You can't retain knowledge like this when you're drinking through that big of a fire hose. He completed the program on schedule, and in total, he paid $10,000. He said he paid $10,000. He extended the timeline. He did it for 24 weeks, and he graduated, and he got his boot camp, whatever. All right. But check it out. Another way in which he was intentional. Like many students who go the route of professional education, he attended the boot camp while working 4 times. So he didn't feel like anybody owed him. He said, listen, I still got to get to this bag. I still got to take care of this money. Right. And there's some women that have that same drive and stuff like that. But I'm telling you that men have been conditioned, and we understand that nobody is going to come and save us. It's all on us. So we're going to have to do what we need to do in order to continue to be successful. His schedule involved class online 3 days a week and several hours of studying after that. He would go to work all day and then go to class, which means that he shut the piss up. He said, I can't party. I can't be hanging out. For these next 24 weeks, I'm going to have to grind, and I'm going to have to be intentional. And come home and stay up till 3 a.m. Unrelenting. Do you really want to compete with people like this? They willing to work all day and study all night. He said during lunch at work, he would be coding. During dinner, he would be coding. He added this would have been much more difficult to accomplish without help at home. His spouse, shout out to the ladies that's holding down the men. His spouse is the main reason he was able to juggle all this. She knew this was his dream, similar to Rita. Rita held me down and supported me through all of this. The next main reason is caffeine. Lots of caffeine. So he did what he did. He said it's easy to fall behind. And this is the other part. And this is what I tell a lot of other people. I gave y'all this whole game before. He didn't just say, okay, I graduated the boot camp. It's time for me to go through, so on and so forth, right? He built his portfolio. He learned about the people that he would be interviewing with. He learned about the companies. And then he built the apps to show that he can do what he said is he can do. He demonstrated his ability and didn't rely on anybody to give him anything. He felt like he still needed to prove himself. So he used what he learned in order to implement and showcases his coding skills. And guess what? People with this type of mentality, we don't need to go too much more into the article. People with this type of mentality will always be successful because they're not depending on anybody to give them anything. They are driving themselves to be successful by being intentional, and they're not waiting for a handout. They're waiting for an opportunity. It's a difference.